Welcome Wargamers, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, and as we are wrapping up Sylvaneth week, I wanted to do another video that kind of really stuck out to me. See, before this series, I had never really given a deep look into the Sylvaneth lore, and as I was breaking it apart into sections, talking about the noble spirits and the forest folk and all those kinds of things, the outcasts, I did realize something across all those various sections. And that is simply this: Alarielle does some very questionable things, and that's going to be the topic of today's video. Now, this is not an in-depth lore review. We've already looked at some of her actions from the Rumgate War series, and we've did a lot of look at her with her actual lore video that I did, and I'll leave that in a link down below. But this is more of a discussion about her character. It is open to debate and understanding, and so that conversation, I really want to see it happen down below. When I did the Nurgle contrasting with Alarielle video, there were some great opinions in the comments section. Go check those out, and I kind of want the same thing here. So this is really a character investigation of Alarielle, and here's the thing. We can have this discussion because there's more lore about her as a person than most other gods, right? The next most colorful god, we'll say, is Nagash, as far as our understanding of what they are like personally. This is because they have great battle tomes, black library books, and included in campaigns like the Seasons of War. My point is, this conversation spawns because there's plenty of information about her, and that's really great to see about a certain character. And before I begin, just one last thing. We know that Order armies are not good or morally upright. Largely, it just means that they hate chaos more than they hate each other. I have no doubt that Alarielle hates chaos, or that her main concern is Guran and the preservation and growth of life. Remember that a lot of AOS is based on kind of classical Greek or Norse tropes, and so like Sigmar's Odin, for example, and where there exists a pantheon of gods living over the mortals, and those gods are imperfect. And this video is talking about the sum of her choices, which is, like I said, a little bit of a character analysis. Now, we'll start in the Age of Myth, where we don't have a ton of information here. We know she woke up in Guran, and she shaped the realm to her image. Sigmar finds her, and she quickly joins the Pantheon, and she does her part, in fairness, to grow society. She works alongside Sigmar and helps kind of proliferate life and civilization. And this is a pretty good start if we're talking about our character analysis. But then the Age of Chaos comes. Nurgle breaks into the realm in a massive way. Alarielle is fighting every step of that way, but here is where we reach problem number 1. Given the timeline of events, Nurgle comes into the realm, and then something happens called the Shrouded Season. Now, we don't actually know what happened. Something terrible, of course. We don't really have any good details, but fundamentally the results of it are the entire Sylvaneth as a species, from your basic Dryad to your Tree Lord Ancients, the most noble ones who've been serving her since time began, have their minds wiped of this part of history. So something happened so horrible that Alarielle did a species-wide memory erase. And the only thing that we know about it is that these spite revenants, these evil, crazy little creatures that are just like manic, came out of this time. This is when they first showed up. So people don't know what their origins are. And so are they corrupted Sylvaneth? No one really quite knows. The reason I point this out is because tampering with memories and identity and those kinds of things is a big theme in Age of Sigmar, and it's huge. As I noted before, Stormcast lose their memories as a byproduct of reforging. It's not intentional. So to actually take someone's mind and warp it is a big deal. That's manipulation on another level. But like I said, the Shrouded Season was kind of our problem number 1, and from here the timeline gets a little bit murky. A lot of things happen and we don't know the exact order. But we do know they happen roughly about the same time. There's the Battle of the Burning Skies, which is a defining moment for the forces of order. Nagash leaves the Pantheon, Sigmar loses Gal Maraz, and things just kind of start to fall apart. Alarielle, in disgust, leaves the Pantheon to focus solely on what's happening in Guran. Which brings us to issue number 2. She creates alienation. She tried to do it all herself, to fight out the Lord of Decay, and really, you gotta remember, the other Chaos Gods are in Guran. It's just Nurgle who has his eye for it, particularly. So she's trying to fight the Chaos Gods on her own. And from here, the war just does not go her way. Nurgle is at his full might and just takes everything she throws at him. He begins to corrupt and turn the mortal forces there, and she is betrayed by the humans and the wanderers in Ghyran. This all happened because she isolated herself from the help of the other gods. She wasn't being a team player. Which kind of brings us into the next problem that we have, which is she falls into despair, the issue here being isolation. She could have still helped the forces of order even if Ghyran was lost. For example, Grugni left Chaman to its own devices, but he was at Azir helping design the Stormcast Eternal. He played an integral role in Order taking back the realms while not being at his own. Alarielle could have called her children to Azir to reform them for war from there. She could have helped in Sigmar's plan to strike back. Instead, she fell into despair and chose isolation. Rather than using her godlike powers to help in any way, she retreated to Athelweird, a little pocket realm, and she stayed there hidden and shooed away her council, the Durthus. And from there, she didn't do much but wallow during the ending parts of the Age of Chaos. And to clarify, her emotions make sense. I understand why she did what she did and why she was feeling that way. And I do want to note that I love the fact that they gave Alarielle this wide range of emotions, that she is angry but also full of sorrow sometimes. That's more dimensions to a character than we typically get with some of these types of stories. But the point of the matter was, there was still work to be done. And then the Age of Sigmar begins, and so now it's easy to say like, okay, well she got remade, she's in her war aspect, she's back on the Pantheon, things are good, right? Well, not exactly. See, Alarielle is reborn. She grabs the Spear of Kurnoth, and this sets off a chain of events that we dove into in the Free Spirits video. Because Kurnoth hunters are fascinating. Only Alarielle knows where they will be at any time. In fact, she has one of them on the Royal Moot. This is the Grand Council of all of her highest esteemed Sylvaneth. But his origins are a mystery. The Master of the Hunt, being the person on the Royal Moot, is an enigma to everyone else there, because he acts as the spy master for Alarielle. And this is the fourth issue I'll bring up, which is secrecy. The Sylvaneth are overjoyed to have their goddess back. But in addition to running the war, she also has this kind of side game involving the Kurnoth hunters. The ancients are upset that she doesn't trust them, right? She seems to have this whole side military of Kurnoth hunters that only she knows how many there are and where they're going to be, and her spy master reports directly to her. It's just like a second hidden army that no one else is allowed to know about, and you can see why this causes tension with the ancients who have been at her beck and call since time began. And this whole cloud of secrecy and mystery, it's like she came back with an agenda that no one else is allowed to know about. So stepping back, these are really big things. The first one, of course, being the Shrouded Season. She removed memories from a species, which can either mean that she's protecting herself or the Sylvaneth. Maybe they can't handle it. Maybe she doesn't want them to see her fail at something. It's kind of hard to tell. At a time when cooperation was most needed, she chose isolation. And here's the thing, I understand why she chose to focus solely on her realm, focus on Ghyran, but the truth of the matter was, Ghyran's need for help didn't surpass anyone else's need for help. It was no more special than the realm of metal was to Grugni, but he still chose to help the greater cause. After that, she isolated herself after falling into despair. And here's the thing about this, if she had left the Pantheon and really cleaned things up in her realm, this would be different, but she broke off, fell despondent, and ultimately did nothing. She sat in Athelweird for a long time. So it's easy to say that she went back to Ghyran because she is solely responsible for it, which is true, but with that action and that burden, she didn't do a whole lot, and Nurgle would have controlled it just as well if she were there or not. And the last one, of course, being that the secrecy continues. That's with the Kurnoth hunters have the ability to act as authority, almost like a secret police, and the Wargroves can't count on them or know how many there are, and they must conduct their grand plans of war in the presence of one to act as spy master. Now, it's important to note I'm not just kind of putting down Alarielle saying that she's evil, nothing like that, because in addition to this, she's done great things. She pretty much single-handedly retook the Ghyran Allgate in the Rumgate War books, which was still my favorite Age of Sigmar scene, where she comes barreling down a mountain, making a thriving forest behind her, and just goes toe-to-toe with the Glotkin. She's back on the Pantheon, she's up and fighting as a team player, she's a cool character doing good things. Again, the fact that we can have this discussion contrasting the good deeds she's done with the extremely questionable choices along the way makes her a really fascinating, deep, multi-dimensional character. She's very well written, and so this is why I'm making a clear point, I'm not just dumping on Alarielle, but she makes the perfect character for a study in what is quote-unquote good in Age of Sigmar. It's easy to look at the Daughters of Cain and be like, whoa, those guys shouldn't be on order, they seem pretty evil for being the good guys, but when you look at the actions of Alarielle, you can have the same kind of feeling. It just doesn't, it's not as in your face. Because you look at some of these events, and you just have to say to yourself, that's not cool. And how many not cool things does it take to change your opinion? And so kind of surmising them, my conclusion is, she's a fantastic ally to have, I just don't trust her at all. There's too much secrecy surrounding the Kurnoth hunters, and that memory wiping thing, I get kind of stuck on that because that's been a common theme really since I started doing my own type of lore videos with the Stormcast Eternals, talking about identity and what it's like if to lose memories and those kinds of things. So I get stuck on that, unreasonably so probably, but I find it deeply fascinating and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because as with every video, this is the start of a discussion. Tell me your thoughts on Alarielle. If you are a Sylvaneth player, tell me what fascinates you about the goddess. What's her favorite good deed that she's done? And why do you think she keeps all the secrets with the Kurnoth hunters? Do you like those added mysteries and kind of potentially nefarious aspects of your god? And what do you think she was hiding during the Shrouded season? I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories down below. And regardless, I look forward to seeing you in my next Age of Sigmar lore video. Thank you all so much for watching, and happy wargaming.